Eyes cracked open. Stars above, Nirn below. I wasn't falling, just floating, surrounded by strangers in a cosmic circle like some weird interdimensional group therapy. Then bam! A guy in a tacky red-purple suit pops in, grinning like a merchant with too many potions to sell. "Welcome to the beta testing of Elder Scrolls 8, he boomed, like this was a party instead of a trap. He blabbed on about time limits, location locks, blah blah standard dev jargon wrapped in chaos. My mouth stayed shut, but inside, panic and curiosity threw hands. No HUD, no logout. Just the chilling realization, this wasn't a game anymore, not really. The moment he paused mid-sentence, you knew it was coming. For you loremongers, we do have a new crisis, he said, practically vibrating with smugness. But don't get too excited. You're shackled to a single time period. One continent, one chance. You can leave it, but don't. You will get lost. And yeah, you will get lost. So what's the setting? He barely let the question breathe before answering himself, Skyrim. Not the Skyrim you knew, though. This is a twisted version, remodeled, updated, and crawling with surprises. Your old meta? Useless. Your favorite exploits? Maybe extinct. Then bam! A screen hits you in the face. This is your journal, the voice chimes. Map, quests, profile all in one glowing interface. Welcome to the beta. Welcome to chaos. No saves, no second chances. If you want to level up, you sleep, simple as that. Then, boom, character creation lights up like a divine menu from the gods. The announcer snaps his fingers, poof, he's gone, and I'm left staring at the skill tree roulette. 3 picks. Bonus XP and whatever I choose. The rest, learn it the hard way. Classic. Most skills scream Skyrim nostalgia, but 4 shiny new trees steal the show. Acrobatics, hand-to-hand, empowerment, and blessings. Acrobatics? Think flashy knife throws and rogue flips. Hand-to-hand? Punch first. Ask later. But empowerment and blessings? Total mystery boxes. I scratch my head, heart racing, brain calculating. One thing's for sure, stealth is a must. When you can't fight or steal, you sneak. And when you can sneak, you win. First thing I did, stealth. Always stealth, like breathing in shadow form. No second guesses there. But then came the real question, what next? I wanted something that'd carry weight across every conversation, every shop, every lie. Speechcraft, underrated? Absolutely. But if things played out how I imagined, persuasion wouldn't just be a skill, it'd be a weapon. Prices drop, people fold, and if the Thuum came into play, maybe I'd shout mountains into dust. Still, something gnawed at me. It felt like speech could go deeper, twistier than anyone expected. But the third slot, that one kept me pacing. This wasn't vanilla Skyrim. We were stuck in a beta simulation dressed in nostalgia, which meant I needed more than muscle or mimicry. I needed magic. Physical combat? Learnable. But real spell work? That required raw talent. So I narrowed it. Restoration or alteration. Conjuration had too many death. By Daedra risks. Destruction was too loud, and illusion? A joke. Restoration had obvious utility, but alteration? Quietly powerful. Like me, might be the dark horse this world never saw coming? Alteration wasn't just spellsit, was a cheat code. It amped everything. Alchemy, speechcraft, enchanting. Transmute alone turned iron into gold and words into power. I was sold. Alteration it was. And if I ever wanted to crack the language of dragons, I'd need every edge. The announcer's voice boomed, jarring me from my scheming. Finally, now bonuses for those with unique picks. 2 trees glowed. Speechcraft and alteration. My reward? Any bonus, so long as it fit. Easy. For alteration, 3 custom spells. First, divergence, to split any spell into a new one. Second, fusion, to merge spells into something stronger. And last conversion, to flip spells between active and passive. My arsenal was no longer spells. It was evolution. Heh. Speechcraft was the tough one. Without the Dragonborn soul perks, I had to improvise as so. I chose a book. Not just any book, but one that taught the dragon tongue and every shout in it. Clever, right? The announcer's voice sliced in before I could pat myself on the back. Decided? Good. Time for your race. Look in the mirror. Bamir pops up. I'm a stock Nord, like everyone else. Some folks flipped genders. I didn't. Too many unknowns. Instead, I eyed the race menu. I could pick one or mix 2. Half-breeds were on the table, snow elf, akaviri, even beastfolk combos, but only with other furballs. Some choices were basically suicide unless you nailed your spawn point. Reekling or Falmer? Maybe, but the smart move, pick the race after choosing where you drop in. Starting point was everything. They gave us a choice erase before zone. Smart move, honestly. I went with a Nord Snow Elf hybrid, cold resistance stacked to 85%. No racial perks, but I wasn't complaining. I could basically sleep in a blizzard. Character creation, Nordic base, elven ears, purple eyes, obviously. If I can pick purple, I do. But something felt off. I remembered my loadouts, my stats, my beard preference. I just didn't remember arriving here. Still, I sculpted a sharper jawline, tossed in a full but not too wild beard, like I was trying to remember a face I never had. Charisma slider? Gently nudged, just enough to make it count. My hair? Black, like obsidian midnight, not that pale, predictable Nord fluff. I gave myself a glorious mane, thick enough to armor both head and neck. Then came the body. Muscular? Absolutely. Not bulky, just efficient. I wasn't sure how the hybrid scales played into stamina or strength, so I went with balanced power. Though, there was one scale that stood out. I tweaked it, made it bigger. Tastefully intimidating. Clothes? Oh, I had choices. I picked hide gear, heavy on the fur. Frost resistance or not, I wasn't looking to freeze my newly minted assets off. That fear of cold? Motivational. It's why I picked hybrid in the first place. Finally, the name. I didn't remember my real one, but that didn't stop me. I clicked my tongue, smirked, and typed, Vec Frostwane. Simple. Sharp. A subtle joke on my icy blood, and even colder resolve. Perfect. Okay. The voice slammed back into existence like a glitchy NPC on a vendetta. I flinched. He definitely did that on purpose. You've got most of your setup. All that's left is your backstory. His tone twisted like a GM dangling doom. If you're lazy or just awful at writing, skip it. You'll spawn somewhere random. But if your story's good, he stared. No, not stared scanned. Like he was patching into my soul through debug mode. Then the voice went flat, robotic. This is the last time you'll hear from me, so stay safe, play smart, don't do anything dumb. Once your backstory's locked, you'll wake oop either where it ends, or where fate throws you. Good luck, gamers, and remember, it just works. And poof, blinked out. The light shifted, spotlighting others I couldn't talk to, couldn't see, alone. Just me and a screen waiting to decide where I'd wake upper if I'd survived the opening cutscene. Do you like this personality? He wasn't born special. No prophecies, no gods, whispering his name, just Vec Frostwane. An odd mix of snow elf and human blood with a half-decent aim and way too much free time. Stuck in a chilly corner of Atmora where his ancestors once stomped around with ambition, he decided being normal sucked. So he crafted a tale, slapped on a heroic filter, and set his sights on Tamriel. Skyrim, to be exact. Getting there? Not free. So he grabbed a bow because apparently everyone up north knows how to shoot and started selling hides like a walking market stall. Archery wasn't even on his skill tree. But hey, survival improvises. Once he racked up enough gold for the journey, he didn't stop stockpiled more like a hoarder with purpose. Inns, homes, the whole comfort package. He didn't just want to travel, he wanted to matter. And this was just the prologue. After a month drifting on the cold sea, he finally reached solitude, but it wasn't wasted time. Between dodging storms and rationing dried fish, he picked up alchemy, smithing, and a few salty tricks from the crew. Enchanting? Nah, that was out of the question, unless one of the sailors was secretly a robed mystic with a side hustle. Still, it didn't need to be a full-blown saga, just enough to sketch a backstory. Rumors from the sailors filled the gaps. Dragons screeching in the clouds, vampires lurking in ancient keeps, whispers of Daedra plotting chaos from the shadows. Maybe those tales would unlock something down the line. He knew which quests were off the table, Serrano wasn't his style, the Razor was basically a community prize, and the Dark Brotherhood, too crowded. But Azure's Star and Dawnbreaker? Clean, powerful, drama-free, he locked in the choices with a smirk. Screen faded, game on. When I glanced up, everyone else had vanished like a bugged-out party wipe. Then, boom, blackout. Cue the shouting, rise and shine! My eyes snapped open to a creaking ship interior, and just like that, I was in Skyrim. My limbs moved like I'd always lived here. Natural. Too natural. We were docked already, and stepping out onto the port, the view hit me like a frost troll to the face. Solitude, huh? I muttered. Yeah, it's massive. The sailor gave a knowing nod. You'll get used to it. Winking skeever's your best bet if you're staying low-key. I gave a half nod, half squint. Typical NPC helpfulness. I patted my pockets bingo. One suspiciously bonus speechcraft book and a fat pouch of gold that didn't feel quite imperial. Either I was lucky, or this beta was already bending the rules, and I planned to break them first. So they might be useless, huh? I slumped onto a nearby crate, flipping open my journal like I was pulling up some arcane system menu only I could see. 6 quests stared back at me too were the rumors I chased down. Something about an old shrine and a weird beacon. Another one wanted me to go dragon hunting across Skyrim, as if that's just a casual errand. One more flagged the Dawnguard vampire hunters. Typical. But the last two, those were personal. One demanded I build a name for myself, complete with progress bars for factions and holds, like I was some prestige class waiting to be unlocked. Useful, maybe, if I ever figure out what the hell I want to do here. Then came number 6, a blank slate. A glitch? That's what I thought until I opened it. One line lit up. You have no memories of the past, only about the world you live in now. I narrowed my eyes. That wasn't a bug. That was a challenge. Alteration wasn't just a skill, it was the cheat code Vec Frostwain had been hunting for. Each point pumped into it gave a solid 10% boost, but that was just the appetizer. Stability stretched spell durations like Taffy, magic resistance stacked until enemy spells felt like mosquito bites, and Atronach turned him into a walking magic sponge. All that power was just passive. Then came Mage armor quadrupling, defense is so hard. Dragonhide practically turned into Dragonborn plate. But the real twist? Alter Self. A whole new branch, never before seen, that let Vec sculpt his stats like clay. This wasn't just Skyrim with mods, it was Vec rewriting the code of reality, one perk at a time. 10% here, 10% there, and suddenly I'm bending the laws of physics like they owe me rent. I dumped my first points into alteration proficiency, each one cranking the power by 10%. Then came the classics novice to master, ranks boring but necessary. But the real meat? Stability perks that made my spells last 50%, then 100% longer. Magic resistance stacked up to a cool 50%. The Atronach path? Oh yeah, that bad boy. Let me soak up enemy magic like free coffee refills, 30%, passive absorb at max. And that was just the warm-up. Mage armor? Boosted my defensive spells 2.5x. If my guess was right, that meant Dragonhide would turn me into a walking fortress with over 1,000 armor. But hold your potions, that was nothing. The real shocker was Alter Self, an entire new branch tucked into alteration like a hidden door in a dungeon wall. New perks, new mechanics, new ways to break reality. And this was just one perk tree. Welcome to the deep end. Speechcraft wasn't just a skill tree, it was a tactical war zone dressed in charm. Vec cracked it open like a vault of manipulation. First came proficiency, laying the groundwork. Then boom 3 lethal branches, persuasion, intimidation, bribery each sharper than the last. Down persuasion, he snatched points in allure to charm the opposite sex, kinship for racial influence, then dove into bardcraft to weaponize performance, all leading to silver Tungwea, verbal nuke on everyone. Intimidation? Pure vocal warfare. Voice amplified his Thuum, Marauder turned fear into a combat tool, and Beneo banished racial-specific damage boosts like candy, capped off with hatred that lit enemies up just for existing. Bribery brought it home, haggling maxed out gold gain with a 30% boost, making every merchant encounter feel like daylight robbery in Vec's favor. And then came merchant, because why just survive when you can sell survival itself? This perk could charm even beggars into buyers. Fencer followed, legalizing stolen loot with a wink and a smile. Investor? Now that was juicy stacking shop funds with every level, so long as you forked over the coin. But the real spice? Contract. Magic deals, fine print optional. Things escalated fast with Daedra Dealer and Aedra Dealer because who wouldn't want cosmic power on speed dial? Risky? Sure. Worth it? Definitely. Meanwhile, over in the sneaking tree, things branched. Basic sneak buffs one way, sneak attack mayhem the other. Silent? Deadly? Yes, please. Silent as frost on midnight stone, I step through the familiar rhythm sneaking, muffle, lightfoot, silent roll until the world itself seemed to hush. Then came Silent Run and Shadow Blend, turning me into a phantom in the code. But it was the sneak attack skills where the real fun began. Dagger arts gleamed with 8 wicked points, backstab pulsed with 5, and deadly aim whispered with 4 all, feeding the thrill of the one-hit dance. Magic Strike slipped in next, bending arcane shadows to my will. Assassin's Blade poisoned the edges of reality, while Shadowstalk made darkness itself my blade, turning ambushes into cinematic executions 15 times the damage, 15 times the flare. I was satisfied. Maybe too satisfied? My profile flashed up. 10k golden at Morris, about 5k in Imperial coin decent, if humble beginnings. My inventory? A dagger, a bow, some jerky, and a whisper of ambition. Solitude loomed bigger than expected, but that only meant more shadows to disappear into. Chapter 3, Lights Out. Just my luck 3 quests, 1 brain, and a map that suddenly felt a lot bigger than I remembered. Sure, the plan sounded solid. Grab the Sheogorath quest before anyone else, swing by the Rueful Axe Cave, and end up in Falkreath stacking quests like cards. Easy, right? Except Solitude's docks were now the size of a city, and my legs weren't fast travel enabled. I rubbed my neck, already second-guessing my genius. Then fate, or maybe a glitchy pathing script, shoved an Argonian into me with a concerned, "Whoa there, friend, are you okay?" I froze, not from fear, but calculation. Every interaction was a potential node in my web. And this scaly stranger might just be the first strand. "Ah, Maxis, meet my new friend." Jari grinned like he hadn't just dragged me into 3 kinds of trouble. Maxis barely blinked, arms crossed like a statue with attitude. "You're not dragging him into anything shady down at the docks, are you?" Jari laughed it off the way guilty NPCs always do. "Shady? Me? Never. He's new to Skyrim. I'm just showing him around." Maxis looked me over like he was inspecting contraband. "Where you from, new guy?" I hesitated. "Say Atmora, and he'd think I was Medor role-playing too hard." Lore said it vanished, save for one frostbitten trade line. My story was already falling apart. "It's complicated," I said. "I'm from overseas." He nodded slowly, then squinted. "Nord blood, maybe. But what's with those ears?" Ra's smirk froze as he noticed them too. "Great. Now I was a glitch in their lore book." "Yup," I said, matching Maxis' stare. "Mostly Nord." "Ah, Maxis, meet my new friend." Ra's voice oozed casual charm like a snake in velvet, while Maxis gave the kind of nod that said, "I've seen things." His glare hit like a frost spell. "You aren't roping them into shady business at the docks again, Jari." "Psh," came the dismissive wave. "I'm just giving a friendly tour. He's new here." The spotlight swiveled to me. Maxis squinted. "Where you from, new guy?" My mind raced. Atmora was lore. Taboo. Roskri was annexed. My backstory? Basically duct tape and hope. I mumbled, "It's complicated." "I come from overseas." Maxis stroked his chin. "Life across the sea? You look Nord." "Except for those ears." Jari blinked like he just noticed I wasn't full Nord bro. I gave Maxis a half smirk. "Yup, mostly Nord." "Ah, Maxis, meet my new friend," Jari said with a sly grin that practically screamed side quest trouble. Maxis gave a curt nod, eyes narrowing like he'd seen this con before. "You're not dragging them into anything shady at the docks again, are you, Jari?" The lizard waved it off like a leaf in the wind. "Shady? Please, I'm a model citizen. He's just new in town. I'm giving him the grand tour." Maxis turned his gaze to me, scanning like a guard scanning for contraband. "Where you from, new guy?" My brain lagged. Atmora. Too ancient, too erased. I settled on, "It's complicated. Overseas." He nodded thoughtfully. "A seafarer, huh? You look like a Nord except for those ears." That's when Jari finally noticed. "Yeah, hybrid problems. Still, I kept my poker face and nodded. Mostly Nord." Let the mystery simmer. My ancestors once chained elves like livestock, breeding them without remorse, but instead of shame, they handed their half-blood sons blades and called them warriors. I carry their blood, sharp ears and all, though most Nords just squint past it. Maxis caught on too quick, and before I could vanish into the crowd, he bid me luck. Jari chuckled when we entered solitude, teasing about ears I'd forgotten to hide. I smirked. It's in the blood, after all. But the city buzzed with something else. Rogvir's body was still warm, his crime a whisper on every tongue. They called him traitor. I called Ulfric a pawn. The Empire's hatred for the Thalmor simmered quietly, but I could see it. They were sharpening their daggers in the dark, waiting for the next move in a game where players never set the rules. I scoffed, muttering under my breath about Thalmor strings tugging at Stormcloak pockets, while Jari just stared blankly at the poor headless sod nearby. Typical. "You wanted solitude?" he asked, all casual. "Yeah, and maybe an inn without corpses," I replied. He smirked, pointing through the maze of merchant stalls and overpriced souvenirs. "One inn, right there, the Winking Skeever, closer to the center tree not to trip over ambition on your way in." He tossed a nod at the market behind us. That's where locals hawk wares if they're not turning homes into storefronts. A few more steps, and he gestured at a sketchy staircase nailed to someone's rooftop. "Yeah, housing here's like Jenga. Keep stacking until someone falls off." He flashed a grin, throwing in a Bard's College mention like a breadcrumb of culture, then dropped his tone. "Gotta find my sister. Ohand, avoid the sewers." That last part, delivered way too casually to not be hiding a world of trouble. Be careful of those. They recant if you listen closely, the shadows whisper. Jari never said a word about the noble district, or Castle Duer, which was suspicious in itself. I stroked my chin, mind racing through possibilities. Maybe Captain Aldous could wipe out the Blackbloods for me without knowing he was being played. Just then, Jari slinked back toward the Winking Skeever. Perfect. I'd need his sister, though. One step at a time. Next up, find the crazy old man who starts the Sheogorath quest. Dervanin. Should have been easy to spot. What with his charcoal eyes and lunatic energy. In the original timeline, he drifted around the Bard's College only now. Everything had shifted. The noble district was a maze on a hill, and the college wasn't where memory insisted it should be. I scratched my head in frustration. A city guard strolled by, and I flagged him down. "Seen a ranting old beggar named Dervanin?" he sneered. "That old lunatic? Why would you want him?" I exhaled slowly. "Because that master he won't shut up about." "Yeah, I know who that is. Let's just say I need Dervanin to track down someone a lot more dangerous." I scrolled through my quest log as the crisp morning wind bit at my cloak then. I spotted him. Dervanin, snoring like a banshee tangled in bushes. I jabbed a stick at the lunatic. "Master, is that you?" He mumbled, eyes crusty and wide. "Not exactly," I smirked, "but I can fetch him from the Pelagius wing if you hand over the hip bone." His whole face lit up like I'd offered him moon sugar. "You know, master. Yes, here, the key, you need it." I nodded, pocketed the thing it wasn't for a door, more like a mental rabbit hole. "Look, I can't handle this today, but I'll drag your mad god back before month's end." Dervanin sighed dreamily. He does love his distractions. "Good luck then. I'm going back to sleep. Nighty-night." He curled into a ball, mumbling nonsense as I backed away. No tip. I'd rather not explain why I'm flashing golden Atmaran coins to a shrub-hugging nutjob. I'll save that twist for later. I'll swing back with some septims for him once I'm not broke. I stared at the hip bone. Seriously, what kind of inventory wizardry was this? Where was he even keeping it? More importantly, where was I keeping my gold? I slipped the bone into my pocket poof gone, right? Inventory logic. I overanalyzed it since my dagger and gear were actually strapped to me. Anyway, journal time. Lights Out now had bonus betrayal content, and apparently I'd triggered Mind of Madness too. Fun. I poked around the journal tabs quests, profile, Mapand, spotted the settings icon. I'd never touched it before. Naturally, I clicked it, and the weirdness I found. He didn't want to spoil the twist just yet. Later, maybe he'd toss the man a handful of septums so he could crash at the inn like a normal NPC. But for now, the hip bone stole the spotlight. Vex stared at it. Seriously? Where the hell had this guy pulled it from? A secret pocket in the void? And where would he even store something like this? His thoughts spiraled until the gold question hit literally where was his gold kept? With a sigh, he slipped the bone into his pocket and poof, gone. Inventory magic confirmed. He'd been overthinking it, clearly. His dagger and gear? Still physically on him. He opened his journal BAMquest updates. Lights Out now pointed toward evidence against a certain shady dock worker, and the chaos of Mind of Madness had officially been triggered. Curiosity piqued, he eyed the journal's tabs. Quests, profile map, and a gear icon he'd always ignored. Time to click it. System settings open and things were about to get interesting. System notifications? On. Journal colors? Customized. But the system organizations? Pure chaos. This is why you always check settings first, people. I groaned, cracked my knuckles, and dove in. 3 new tabs split clean from the bloated profile page. Skill trees, stats, and the almighty inventory. Clicked it open, tapped on the hip bone poof. It materialized in my hand like conjuration magic. Nice. Tossed it back into the tab, gone again. Satisfying. All right, I muttered. Let's see what kind of trouble's on the bulletin board. Fast forward through hiking up Solitude's dumb hills who build cities like this, and I hit the training grounds near Castle Dur. Found the board, scanned it. Mostly boring delivery jobs and fetched this junk. Then, one scribbled note about the Black Blood Marauders. Suspicious. I leaned in. Might be nothing. But then again, in this game, nothing usually means everything. Wait, something felt off. Vex's eyes narrowed as he spotted the cryptic posting. Solitude Underground. A sewer system coiled within the mountain, where lights glow without source and whispers carry without wind. Dangerous, they said. Unknowable, they warned. Perfect. Snatching the note, the quest etched itself into his journal like a dare. But priorities, she still needed Captain Aldous for the next move in Lights Out. He found the man mid-training drill, barking commands with military grace. "Captain Aldous, sir!" Vec called, slipping easily into the role of the naive foreigner with secrets. Aldous turned, recognition flickering behind those stern eyes. "You entered after the execution." Vec nodded. "Guided by Jari Ra. I'm not from around here across oceans, actually." The captain raised a brow. "And what's this got to do with me?" Vec didn't blink. He extended the bulletin note like a poisoned letter. Black Blood Marauders. Had a run-in with them. Thought you'd like to compare notes. Why couldn't I dive deeper into my past? As I laid out my story, the old captain's eyes narrowed. He was piecing it together fast. "That pirate group?" I said, "They got chased off thanks to the crew that sheltered me. Couple of mages helped. Just setting the stage, really." His brow arched. "This tied to Jari Ra and his folks? Sharp, man." I'd only said Jari Ra was my city contact. So I pushed on. "When I hit Solitude, I was dazzled and disoriented. That's when he showed up offering unmissable goods, scavenging with his sister. The captain scratched his beard, muttering about past suspicions and failed arrests. No proof? Neither did I. But I've got a plan, I said. He asked me to snuff the Solitude lighthouse flame. That did it. The realization hit him like a frost wound to the face. They're targeting the ice runner. That ship's loaded with war supplies. I raised an eyebrow. So, what's the move? He gave me that smirk, the kind that meant trouble. We snuff the lighthouse fire. The ice runner crashes. We ambush the Black Bloods and maybe nab one of the siblings. Get their hideout. Launch a raid. I leaned back, calculating. Only problem? Skyrim's kind of on fire right now. Troops are stretched thin. He nodded grimly. Forsworn uprising pulled men to the Reach. No spare blades. I could feel the tension coiled tighter. No proof the siblings were working together. No way to justify moving soldiers. He rubbed his beard, thinking, how sharp are you with a blade? I shrugged, sharper with a bow. He motioned to the weapons rack. Then prove it. Let's see if you're more than a mouth. I hesitated, reading the subtext. This wasn't just target practice, this was the first test. The sun dipped low, bleeding gold over the stone walls of Solitude as I watched him vanish into the training yardsward, clashing, orders barked, shadows stretching. I needed to grind fast. Skills don't level themselves. But first, the winking skeever. The tavern reeked of stale ale and sweat-soaked ambitions, exactly the place to stir chaos. 3 recruits on my mind, 1 for coin, 1 for revenge, 1 for thrill. As Lizette's song threaded through the smoky air, half forgotten but oddly stirring, I zeroed in on the first target, posted at the reception desk like fate was checking in. I smirked. Got a room for the night? Sorex didn't even blink. 10 gold! My hand went to my neck. Smooth entry. Now, let's see if he's as useful as he is grumpy. The sun dipped low, bleeding warmth over Solitude's ramparts, as Vec Frostwain narrowed his eyes. I'll see if I can get a few extra hands on board, the strategist muttered, already calculating the probabilities. Try to do the same when you have time. He didn't wait for an answer he never did, and stalked off toward the guards mid-swing. The golden hour cast long shadows, and Vec felt the grind itch under his skin. Practice called, Skill Points whispered. But first tavern time. Let's hit the winking skeever, he thought, smirking. That place reeked of sweat, secrets, and just enough chaos to cook up a plan. He entered through creaky doors into a wave of spiced ale and half-sung tunes. 3 recruits danced in his mental rostron Merc for hire, 1 revenge-obsessed, and 1 dangerously bored. Perfect. A familiar tune brushed his ears Lizette's voice, haunting and unfamiliar. He made a mental note. Get her on his side, if not her playlist. Spotting his first target, Vec approached with a disarming grin. Got a room for the night? Sorex barely looked up. 10 gold. Vec scratched his neck, already scheming how to get it discounted or reimbursed. The game wasn't just survival. It was manipulation, persuasion, and control. And this tavern? Just the first domino. Is this conversation helpful so far? I don't suppose you'll take these? I flipped a gleaming goldenette mora into the air, letting it catch the tavern light. Sorex squinted, curious. Can I see that? I nodded, tossing it over. He turned it in his fingers, brow furrowing. It's smaller than a septum, but I've never seen gold like this before. Enter stage left, his father, drawn by the scent of confusion. What's going on? Sorex handed him the coin like it was cursed. The old man examined it, turning it against the flame. Smaller, yeah, but pure gold. Feels like an ancient Nord relic, except it looks fresh out of the forge. What is this? I scratched the back of my neck, trying to sound nonchalant. Golden at Mora, pretty standard where I'm from. We don't use imperial coin. And just like that, the air got colder not from the gold, but from the questions it didn't answer. Do you like this personality? Corpolis arched an eyebrow, voice dripping disbelief. A golden at Mora? Like the myth? I just nodded. He shrugged. Fine, but they're worth half. Double it up. 20 clinks later, Sorex slid me the room key. I asked about the inn's name. He groaned. Dad said a skeever winked at him. Truth? It was a bald mutt from Hammerfell, ugly thing. He called it skeever for laughs. I smirked. You gonna inherit this circus? He chuckled. I already run the joint. Deliveries, guests, even the ledgers mostly. But I don't want this forever. Thought about the Legion. But war? Not my vibe. I nodded again. Right. You were there for Rogvir's chop show. Is this conversation helpful so far? Sorex leaned on the table with a crooked smirk. Yeah. Known him since we were knee-high to a frost troll. Total brute. No one really liked the guy. Before he got the axe, he wouldn't shut up about the Stormcloaks. Honestly, it's half the reason I thought about signing up with the Legion just to spite him. I scanned the room. Jari. Raz got one more sibling, Gulam Ibut. He's clean. No ties to the Black Bloods. Still, didn't want him catching wind of this. No scaly ears in sight, so I turned back to Sorex. Ever talk to Captain Aldous, I asked. He's got jobs for folks stuck in solitude. Dangerous ones, too. With the war pulling all the heavy hitters, there's room for the bravier the bored. Sorex raised a brow. Fight what exactly? I gave a lazy shrug. Wolves. Bandits. Maybe a dragon if you're lucky. He let out a bark of laughter, grabbed his towel, and went back to wiping the counter. All right, you got me. I'll ask him. Just then, something clicked in my head. That smooth back and forth, that glint in his eye. My speechcraft must have ticked up again. Ha! Level up by sarcasm. Classic. He never asked my name and I never offered it. Almost level 2, but something feels off with the skill trees. Maybe I got duped? Looks like dumping points into proficiency speeds things up. I'll test that once I sleep and grab my first skill point. For now, I needed a drink. Just some basic ale, I told the barkeep. 4 septums, he grunted. I tossed down 8. Generosity buys silence. With ale in hand, I slid into a seat across from a man in battered armor. He was mid-chew on a sad-looking pile of potatoes. His eyes met mine. What do you want? He asked. You're a mercenary, right? I replied, sipping. He gave a dry nod. Not much work lately, nothing worth doing. Not into chopping up bandits for local guards? I smirked. He gave a lopsided grin. I'd rather guard some noble's backside for 500 gold. He leaned forward slightly. Name's Belrand. You hiring? I shrugged like the question bored me. Sort of. Listen up, Palyor. Answer hinges on 2 questions. Are you game for danger? And will you take these shiny little Atmaran coins as hazard pay? The seasoned sellsword eyes the gold, strokes his beard, and smirks. 2 of these equal 1 standard piece? Fine by me. So, what's the score? Cue the reveal. A covert strike for the city's captain. Hunting ruthless marauders on the high seas, with no official backup, just a tight squad and a promise of glory. The veteran chews on the idea, forks clinking, then slams his plate down like a war drum. Pirates, huh? The infamous black blood lot? Count me in, I've been itching for real action. And if you need extra muscle, the local headsman's axe would love a taste of pirate plank. Deal struck, sword sheathed, and a hush falls over the tavern as fate readies its next splash page. He was right there, sipping Blackbriar like he owned the place. That's the guy me next recruit. I gave a nod, ready to drop the gold, but he waved it off with that veteran swagger. If this is all this is doing, I'll bleed coin out of him myself, he said. I smirked. Perfect. Time to hunt down Ottar. As I walked over, he didn't even glance. Seats taken, he growled. I just nodded. Jala, right? Relax. I'll vanish the second she shows. But let's talk escapees. That got his attention. All right, but the second she's here, you ghost. I gave the nod deal made. Then I leaned in, dropping the name that would light the fire. Hargar, he broke out. Pretty weird how that happened. Ottar nodded, confirming the prison break of a notorious marauder captain someone Vec just happened to run into during a pirate ambush en route to Solitude. With a sly smirk, Vec dangled the truth. Not only did he know where the fugitive was, but he knew who cracked the cell door open. Ottar's eyes lit up like a man offered revenge on a platter. Jala entered mid-convo, curious, but Vec brushed it off just business. As he turned to leave, Ottar called out his loyalty, already hooked by the promise of chaos. Talk to Aldous, Vec replied coolly. The pieces were moving. His journal chimed, speechcraft up, level gained, power was stacking. Do you like this personality? When I drifted off to sleep, I didn't wake up in bed. I woke up in a cosmos of floating stars, each one pulsing with potential. Skill trees, shimmering and alive. I stepped toward the first. Lockpicking still garbage. Acrobatics was next, and okay, that one had legs. Boosted stamina, flashy leaps, might be worth a few points. I skipped the familiar and scoped out the newcomers. Hand to hand? Meh. Too vanilla. But claws caught my eye might synergize with certain beastly builds. Then came the jackpot. Empowerment. A skill tree wired into my bloodline. Nord and Snow Elf perks? Yes, please. With every hybrid race baked into this glitch-happy world, the combinations were madness. This wasn't just skill optimization, it was a blueprint for domination. Do you like this personality? Lucky and unlucky figures. The novice perks and the other trees worked just fine, but it was the bonus I picked for alteration that flipped the script. I didn't need to slog through spellbooks, the knowledge just flowed. I slammed a perk point into novice alteration, took a breathe and boomy, brain got flash flooded with spell data like I downloaded a mage's entire career in seconds. When the rush ended, I was still floating in that surreal dreamscape, staring at a fancy door, clearly the exit. But right next to it, my magic profile, fully editable. I couldn't resist. The passive effects section greeted me with 3 entries. Frost, resistance obvious. Atmora native interesting? Ancient race mysterious? Atmora native in particular had a strange edge to it. Something powerful, something forgotten. In the surreal dreamscape of skill trees, Vec Frostwain stood at the threshold of power, half laughing, half calculating lucky and unlucky all at once. The novice perks played nice across the board. But it was alteration where things truly clicked. One perk, one breath. And his mind detonated with arcane insight spells once distant, now etched into his soul like frost on glass. The world shifted but didn't end. He wasn't waking up yet. Instead, an ornate door loomed, promising escape, but beside it, a mirror to his magic self. A profile panel pulsed with editable power. Vec chuckled. Magic could be rewritten here. First stop? His passives. Frost resistance. Expected. Atmora native. Intriguing. Ancient race. Mysterious. But that native buff? Oh, it had Teat Hand he planned to bite. In a realm where only the fiercest survive, the Atmoran natives are born into brutality. Strength isn't earned. It's inherited before birth. Carved into bone by the frozen winds of a forgotten land. I stared at the passive effects screen. No numbers, no percentages, just cryptic hints. One effect, Ancient Race, simply whispered that my skills would get a 5% boost when dealing with my kind. No clue how the rest worked, but I wasn't done. I triggered Spell Conversion Boom 3 new spells. Grant Frost Resistance, a whopping 50% boost. Adversity, trade stamina for health and mana, and the hilariously named Senior Discount, which cranked up my bartering. And yeah, the best part? The passive stayed. I could shuffle the deck, swap spells, and still keep the aces. But the twist? The spells didn't always match their origins. A Frostborn Legacy gave me a barter buff? Sure, magic's weird. I browsed through Alteration, spells Candlelight, Oakflesh, Equilibrium, all familiar. Then I spotted newcomers like Alarm, Splinter, and Lock. The rules were bending, and I was just getting started. Sure-footed had its perks, but not without a downside. Still, with a shield, could be deadly. I paused, then tapped into Divergence, and Fusion clicked, converted, done. 2 new passives. Division and Harmony. My eyes lit up. Division? Meh, not amazing but useful. Slows all skill growth by 20%, but every level up drops a 10-point bonus across the board. Harmony, though? That one was nuts. Level up 1 skill, and neighboring trees get a free ride, only 25% of the XP. Sure, but still, level 1-handed, 2-handed, and archery tag-along, it was like XP osmosis. Of course, they had to nerf it somehow. Just as I was scheming how to break the system wide open, those big double doors flung open, white light stabbing through, then bam, I snapped awake in bed. Morning sun, cold sweat, just a dream, or did the grind just begin? Sure-footed had its drawbacks, but with a shield, it could be a game changer, at least in theory. Vec hovered over his options, eyes sharp with calculation, then tapped into Divergence and Fusion, converting them without hesitation. The air shimmered as Division and Harmony embedded themselves as passives. Division? Not ideal, but sneaky good. All skill progress slowed by 20%, but every skill level up juiced every other skill by 10 points. It was a slow burn power boost, and the more he thought about it, the more dangerous it felt. Harmony, though? That was nuts. It linked neighboring skills level 1, and the others followed. Not equally, but enough to matter. One-handed leveling gave a taste of EXP to two-handed and archery. Only 25%. But in Vec's hands, even a quarter was lethal. The logic was sound it couldn't be too OP. Just then, twin doors of searing white light burst open. No time to react. His eyes shot open bedroom. Dawn. Was it real? Was it a dream? Or was the beta rewriting reality itself? The muffled sounds of reality were leaking in. Yeah, time's up in the dreamscape. With a groggy yawn, I peeled myself out of bed and decided to pay Captain Aldous a visit. But first, the fusion and divergent spells. Nope. Still too much mana for the waking world. Later then. At the training grounds near Castle Dur, Aldous was already waiting with 5 figures lined up. Familiar faces, Sorex, Belrand, Atar. Unexpected ones too, Bolgier Bearclawone of Elisif's court pieces and Nostra Eagle-Eye, who apparently eavesdropped his way into this mission. This everyone? I asked, squinting at the new recruits. Aldous didn't miss a beat. Get over here. Bolger's insurance from the Jarl, and Noster volunteered. Still swears he's got the eyes of a hawk. Noster gave a solemn nod. Let me redeem myself for the trying. All right then, the board was set and the pieces were moving. Noster would snuff the lighthouse blaze while I stayed back, ready to tip off Jari Ra that the light had gone out. Bolgier and Belrand off to clean up the Ice Runner crash site, taking care of any curious rats sniffing around. Then it's game time. Me, Atar, Sorex, and Aldous tail Jari Ra to his hideout ambush style. The plan? Storm the Blackblood lair and drag those scum out in shackles. Solid tactic, sure, but I had an ace up my sleeve. I already knew where their lair was. What if Jarira didn't run straight home like a good little villain? What if we wasted time? Nah, I was once an info broker. I'd already cracked the case. Broken Ore Grotto, tucked along the icy northern coast, just northwest of Solitude's lighthouse. I suggested we grab Jarira now, flip the script, and use him as bait. Loyalty? Police pirates fold faster than wet parchment. The others were stunned, jaws slack. How did you wear what? I couldn't help smirking. Irony's a cruel friend. Guess where he's hiding? Right under the light he tried to kill. Aldous sparked a laugh. Even fate's got a sense of humor. Noster would snuff the lighthouse flame while I hung back to tip off Jarira baiting the trap. Baldur and Belrand? Off to the Ice Runner wreck to mop up any stragglers. Then the fun part. Me, Sorex, Ottar, and Aldous tailed Jarira to his so-called hideout. Or so they thought. Truth was, I already knew where the Black Bloods were holed up. Tracking him was a waste of time and risk. I rubbed my beard, eyes gleaming with a plan too clever for coincidence. We don't follow him, we arrest him. Use him as bait. Trust me, loyalty runs thin in that crew. 6 jaws dropped. You found their lair already? I smirked. Broken Ore Grotto. North coast, northwest of the lighthouse. Ironic, huh? Aldous let out a chuckle. Yeah, figures. We had men scouting that route for weeks every time. Nothing. Now I get it. They were hiding in plain sight, using the lighthouse itself as a mask. Smart. Baldur gave a slow nod, piecing it together. So that's how he kept slipping out. There's a dock tunnel through the mountain shortcut city escape. Ottar was already pacing, fists clenched. Then why not just drag him in now? But Sorex cut in, eyes sharp. Because Dija's still in the city. She sees him arrested, the whole plan collapses. No, wait. We don't even need to risk the Ice Runner. Think about it, they know where it'll crash. So what if we're already there, waiting? I leaned in, gears turning, an ambush. Risky, but tight. If they're crawling through the night fog after the crash. Baldur snapped his fingers. Exactly, but how would they move the loot back? I cracked a grin. By boat. Do you like this personality? They're taking boats to follow the Ice Runner perfect. We'll track them from the shadows. But this has to be a tight, synchronized dance. Belrand chimes in, oh so casual. I can use candlelight. I flash a grin, so can I? We've got our signal system. Magical flares in the night. All this reworks the whole plan right there. Noster kills the lighthouse light. Baldur and Belrand tail the smugglers by sea. Vec drops a lie to Jarira. Then links up with Ottar and Sorex for a Black Blood beatdown at the grotto. Aldous himself will corner Jarira with a bogus dock search. Then plot twist re-enters the room with a glowing staff like it's loot drop time. Staff of Magelight. Now we're locked, loaded, and lit up for a signal. Spell ambush. The plan was stitched tighter than a Blackbriar bribe. Noster was to watch the sea, waiting for Belrand's flicker candlelight being our silent signal to spark the lighthouse back to life. I gave the nod. Once the light returned, we'd strike the Black Bloods right in their salt-soaked nest. My turn to shine would come with my own flicker, marking the job done and summoning Noster to report back to Captain Aldous. Baldur, grinning like a saber cat in Moonsugar, mentioned a personal Botah backup escape for the city's queen, now rebranded as our stealth ride. We all smirked. Showtime. As dusk crept over Solitude, Noster took his post, and I lingered near the docks, eyes locked on the lighthouse. Flame vanished. Go time. I dashed to Jarira, lungs burning, words broken between breaths. Jari! Ra! It's done. We're good, yeah? He turned, teeth flashing. Friend! Haha, very nice. My sister awaits Dija. His grin didn't sit right. Something told me the real game had just begun. She'll handle the rest of me job, stay out of sight, and make sure everything goes down smooth. I gave a quick nod, thumb up mission A go. Baldur and Belrand clocked the signal, moving like clockwork out of the docks. I slipped into the shortcut, circled past the lighthouse, snow biting at my heels as I dashed toward Broken Ore Grotto. One bad slide later, face full of snow, I was up and dusting off when I heard it. Over here! Sorex and Ottar flagged me down from the shadows. I crept over and took in the scene. The grotto? Still a cave, sure, but now draped in wreckage. Ship ribs arching like broken bones over the tide-washed entrance. Nothing screamed trap louder, but that's where we were headed. If the idiot's meeting us at the wreck, why are we always the ones rowing out? Bord muttered, earning a groan from Dija. Every time you speak, my IQ drops. Boat slipped off into the mist while we watched in silence. Didn't expect them to actually go, Ottar admitted. I smirked. Buys Belrand and Baldur time to warn the Ice Runner before it crashes. Sorex gave a nod, flipping a deck from his cloak. While we wait for Noster to light the beacon again? Cards? Ottar shrugged. So did I. Deal us in. We played beneath the sky, choked with tension, eyes flicking to the lighthouse. When it was my turn, I saw it fire, cutting through the dark. Beacons up, time to move. Sorex sighed, scooping the cards. Figures, I was about to lose. Ottar reached for his axe. Sorex's sword hissed from its sheath. So, what's the play? I was already halfway gone. I'll sneak in first. Shadows swallowed me whole. If the fool is meeting us at the wreck, why do we always leave on boats? Bord grumbled, earning a sharp glare from Deja. Shut up, Bord. I lose brain cells every time you talk. More boats were sent out into the icy dark, vanishing like ghosts on black glass. Ottar crossed his arms. Didn't think they'd leave so fast. I smirked. Buys Baldur and Belrain, time to hit the ice runner before things go sideways. Sorex raised a brow. While we wait for Noster to spark the lighthouse, I've got cards. Game? I glanced at Ottar. He shrugged. We both answered, sure, lay them out. Cards slapped the stone. Time crawled. Eyes flicked toward the dark silhouette of the lighthouse waiting. Then, light. My turn to check, and there it was. The fire was lit. The lighthouse is up. We move. Sorex groaned, sweeping up the cards. Figures I was going to lose anyway. Ottar pulled his axe. Sorex unsheathed his blade. How are we doing this? Ottar asked. I cracked a grin. I sneak in first. And like smoke, I slipped into the cave. Water sloshed at his boots as Vec crept closer, eyes locked on the two black blood guards near the jagged cave entrance. Deja left already. Shouldn't Jarira be here? One muttered. How should I know? Maybe he got someone dumb enough to snuff the lighthouse. Vec inched up the rickety stairs, patience thinning as their chatter dragged on. With a sigh, he whipped a knife into the nearest throat clean. Silent, effective. Cue, anchor. Too late. Vec snatched the other's sword, drove it through his ribs like slicing chilled meat. The last one stumbled back, clutching his neck, but Vec's new blade found his spine fast. Sorex whistled. Damn, that was impressive. Ottar nodded. We move like this. No telling if they've got another way out. Vec scavenged a bow, slinging it over his shoulder. Sorex hesitated. So, we killing everyone? Ottar's voice was firm. Most. The captain and any who surrender, we take them alive. Sorex grimaced. Okay, but I've never actually killed anyone, so I'm out on that. Vec nodded coolly. No problem. Ottar gave me a look, the kind that says do it clean, not go wild, and I gave one back. Message received. We fanned out, me on the left, Ottar and Sorex sliding right like shadows. One guard, clueless, throat open before he could yawn. I slammed the drawbridge lever with my boot, metal groaning as it lowered. Sorex quipped about ship parts. Ottar muttered about permanence. Orders flew Vec on flank, they'd handle sleepers. Sorex nodded like tying people up was breakfast. I slipped down another path, hit a second bridge, no lever. Of course! Backtrack time! I caught up with them mid-tie, stuffing unconscious raiders into sleeping bags like bedtime burritos. I smirked. Clever. They glanced up. Dead end? Drawbridge with no lever. Great. 8 targets, 1 playing lookout, I muttered, eyes narrowed. We take him out quiet, then sweep left and strike fast. They nodded. Silent steps. The lookout barely had time to gasp before Ottar slammed his skull into the stone and tied him up like a parcel. Sorex leaned in, whispering, So, how do we start this chaos? He pointed to the shabby base below. I shrugged. How much loot's worth grabbing from that mess? Ottar looked baffled. Some's war spoils, some East Empire stock. Hard to tell. I pulled a torch from the wall, the flames flickering in sync with the tension. Below, a guy was mopping up shimmering liquid. That wine? I asked. Sorex peered closer, nodding. Firebrand! Spilled more of that than I've poured, and when it goes up, it really goes up. I crashed into one guy while Sorex dashed downstairs like a madman, snagged another dude and tied him up with freakish speed. Then some lunatic came swinging at him, but I parried with my own blade. No, you don't! And drove a knee into his leg so hard he folded like bad origami. My sword found his neck, and the rest, easy pickings. Sorex cracked up. Whoa, close one! I shot him a thumbs up while we trussed the rest like roast chickens. Upstairs, we caught Ottar just wrapping up his duel with Harger who, surprise, wasn't dead but wasn't doing great either. Ottar waved casually over his broken axe. You guys good? Sorex nodded. Close call, but Vec, here's got serious combat hacks? I just shrugged. Hit where it hurts. Plus, luck. Truth is, I had no clue why I was that smooth in battle. Probably thanks to that Atmora native backstory perk I clicked on a whim. Total luck roll. He alive? Ottar gave a lazy nod. Yup. Broke my axe, so I broke his skull accidentally. Think it was a warhammer on that rack. Sorex chuckled. Nice. Guess he's off to the block? Atar shrugged. No jailbreak this time. I tapped my chin. Someone check those cells. I'm betting 20 gold there's a secret passage. Atar smirked. Solid bet. I rifled through Hargar's pockets, ding ding. A key. Hidden chest, obviously. Tossed it to Sorex. Feel like freezing your hands off for loot? Atar peered over the ledge. Bet it's stashed in that wrecked ship. Sorex laughed. That water's ice. Atar pointed at a dying fire. There's heat, and maybe some half-cooked corpses. We should get him out. Do you like this personality? He alive? Atar gave a lazy nod. Yup. Broke my axe, so I broke his skull accidentally. Think it was a warhammer on that rack. Sorex chuckled. Nice. Guess he's off to the block? Atar shrugged. No jailbreak this time. I tapped my chin. Someone check those cells. I'm betting 20 gold there's a secret passage. Atar smirked. Solid bet. I rifled through Hargar's pockets, ding ding. A key. Hidden chest, obviously. Tossed it to Sorex. Feel like freezing your hands off for loot? Atar peered over the ledge. Bet it's stashed in that wrecked ship. Sorex laughed. That water's ice. Atar pointed at a dying fire. There's heat, and maybe some half-cooked corpses. We should get them out. Do you like this personality? Good luck with that. I waved, turning toward the flare duty. Sorex grumbled. Lucky bastard. I smirked, pulling up my skill list, mid-step sneak, just a hair away from leveling. I crouch-walked like a deranged crab, determined to tick it over before exiting the cave. Cut to chapter 10. Cheers! The winking skeever buzzed with ale and smug satisfaction. Sorex raised his voice. Father, around for the table. Corporal strolled over, pride half hidden behind a grin. Back already? Was your little escapade worth the hangover, Sorex? Laughter cracked through the tavern as Sorex turned crimson. One round of mead, Corporalis declared like a king with a tight purse. Aldous chimed in. That's enough for me, Baldur. The old guard shrugged. Might as well can't resist when it's free. Even stone-faced Atar broke in. I'll schedule Jari, Ra, Hargar, and Deja next week. The rest? Staggered across the month. The plan was rolling, the room warm, and for a moment even in this glitch-riddled, danger-crawling sim things almost felt real. Do you like this personality? It's gonna be chaos. Baldur just shrugs like it's no big deal, those troublemakers are out, and now the guards can finally pitch in where it counts. Captain Aldous grunts approval, glad the supplies are back with the Legion and ready to hand over the stolen goods. Victoria Lost turns out she's marrying someone from Riften. Belrand, rubbing his shiny dome, jokes about his lost good looks and then turns to me, eyes narrowed. What's your move? I've been thinking, this all started with me, didn't it? I'll build an information guild, something sharp, something useful. Back where I'm from, I worked alone, watching skies and battling monsters. But now I've got a feeling I know where the enemy's funding comes from, and if I'm right, it's going to give Ulfric one nasty ulcer. Sorex, ever the tavern whisperer, strokes his chin and leans in, grinning. Mind if I join? You know where the rumors really live. Jarira lunged with a dagger, the second things went sideways classic, backstab moment, and of course, Noster, armorless as ever, took the hit. Well, someone muttered, if he dies, Somgard's not bad. If he lives, maybe a coin or two. Sorex shot me a look. So, where you from? Been eyeing those flashy coins of yours. I scratched my neck, half laughing. Truth? A mess. So I gave them the simplified legend. At Mora, the last frozen stronghold Jilkurfik. The continent's drifting north, freezing by the day. It's complicated, but yeah, simple. Their eyes widened like I dropped a dragon egg. You're from At Mora? I nodded, calm as a blizzard. Traitors don't talk, but I'm not one of them. Belrand frowned. No offense, but what's worth anything on a frozen rock? I grinned, cold as my homeland. Silver, ebony, enough to buy a new future. Jarira lunged with a dagger. The second things went sideways classic, backstab momentane, of course. Noster, armorless as ever, took the hit. Well, someone muttered. If he dies, Sovngarde's not bad. If he lives, maybe a coin or two. Sorex shot me a look. So, where you from? Been eyeing those flashy coins of yours. I scratched my neck, half laughing. Truth? A mess. So I gave them the simplified legend At Mora, the last frozen stronghold Jilkurfik. The continent's drifting north, freezing by the day. It's complicated, but yeah, simple. Their eyes widened like I'd dropped a dragon egg. You're from At Mora? I nodded, calm as a blizzard. Traitors don't talk, but I'm not one of them. Belrand frowned. No offense, but what's worth anything on a frozen rock? I grinned, cold as my homeland. Silver, ebony, enough to buy a new future.